Good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Let's Just Talk with Kim. And of course, I'm Kim. I'm here every Monday night at 7 p.m. And tonight, I have a very special guest, my auntie. Well, she actually is my cousin, but I call her auntie. My auntie, Fendall, right? Fendall. I can already say it wrong.
Yes, you do.
You don't have to agree.
It's Jean Fendall.
Fendall. Jean Fendall. Whew. Now she only
I've,
been my aunt,
I've only
my
had that
cousin.
name. I've only had that name all your life.
That's what I was getting ready to say. My entire life, not even part of the life, my entire life. So I have her on tonight, and what we're going to be talking about is how can we help our children? There are so many things that go on in the in children's lives, especially now, where there is so much gun violence in schools. There's so much physical, mental abuse that sometimes children go through, or a lack of resources when they're trying to just succeed in life. And my auntie, she is a expert at child advocate. Don't do this. Don't do that. People can see your face and center yourself. I told you look the other way. Remember?
She gives me so many things to do. I can only do one thing at a time. Go ahead.
So I want you to tell the people all about you.
Well, let me back up a little bit. You talked about ways of helping children. There are so many ways that we can. I decided after I retired that the way I would do it is to work with children who are in foster care, children who had, because of either neglect or abuse, been taken away from their children, placed in foster care. And there's a whole branch of, I don't know what we call it, child services in Philadelphia. I don't remember. But here in Georgia, we call it DFACS, which is Department of Family Facts, Acts for Children. And so a part of that is an organization that we call CASA. It's a court-appointed special advocate for children. And so I wanted, once I stopped working, to do something that was totally different, giving back in a way to children. And so, I mean, we can help with money, we can help with time, and I had lots of time after I retired. And so this advocacy program was something that has come to be a passion for me.
Amen.
Yes, it's working with once children have been taken from their parents, they're put in foster care. And so often there's not a voice for the child. There's a voice for the parents. They have legal representation, but so often there's not a consistent person in the child's life. I don't know how many of you have heard that so many times children may be transferred for 10, 20 homes before they even reach the age of 10 sometimes. You would be surprised at how many times kids go from one home to the other, to the other, to the other. So we've got child advocacies, volunteers whose responsibility it is to help find a permanent and a forever home for the child. And that could be back with the parents, but if it's not, we want to find a home that's either with another family member or with somebody who's interested in adopting them.
And that's interesting because it is separate and apart from what for here in Philadelphia is the Department of Human Services, family court, and things of that nature. But it's
part of it.
Right. But you are separate and apart. You're within the structure but your sole purpose is advocating for the child, to make sure that the child is placed in the right home, to have the resources they need. Because I find in the court system sometimes, actually, I was looking for your app. It's CASA Philadelphia as well. So it's CASA Philadelphia.
Well, there's a national organization for CASA,
And
and
they're in Philly as well.
in just about every state, there is a local, in every state and in many cities, there is a local organization that's governed by the national organization.
Which is a blessing. But what I was saying about you, what I like about your position and what you do is you are not part of the court system in a sense of what the judgment might be, whether or not they go to their parents or they go to their mom. You're looking out strictly for the child. Like you said earlier, you know, we have there's a delay for me. I don't know why, but we have we parents, I should say, have legal aides. We have attorneys that's looking out for us. Yes, for the children. We're fighting for the children, but they're really fighting for what we want, not necessarily what the children need and things of that nature. Is that
Well,
correct?
oftentimes parents have legal representation.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge has found, what we found is that there's no voice for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you said it is a part of the court.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of the court. As a matter of fact, we're appointed by the court.
Oh, okay.
We're supposed to speak on behalf of the child.
Okay.
And
Okay.
in many cases, children have their own legal representation appointed by the judge.
Hmm.
So that position is called a guardian ad litem. So it's the lawyer for the child appointed by the judge to speak from a legal point of view for the child. Mine is the non-legal, obviously. I don't have a law degree. But we're all speaking on, the two of us are speaking on behalf of the child.
Mm-hmm.
And so working with the child through their teachers, their doctors, any of the resources that are assigned to that child are kind of, excuse me, I'm putting my hand in front of my face. We're tied in, we're linked in to those people. And on a month-to-month basis, we're contacting them. We're talking to the children on how these resources are working for them. And every month, the judge goes back to that child. There's a hearing to see how they're doing. Are the
Okay.
parents, usually, in many cases, a child is in foster care because they've either been neglected or abused. And that usually comes from, unfortunately, from the parents. So the child's taken from the parent. And usually, a lot of times, it's because the parent is in some kind of drug abuse. Okay, so if it's the mother or whomever has custody of that child, they lose custody. The state takes custody of the child, and then the parent has to work to get the child back.
Right.
In the meantime, they're placed in foster care, and we've signed volunteers like me to make sure that that child is being taken care of and treated well in the foster home.
And that's a good thing because here in Philadelphia, all we ever hear about is the DHS workers, what they're doing. They're assigned for the well-being of the children and making sure the children meet appointments, anything they need to do, all of those other things. I mean, they do a lot. And sometimes we think that the children aren't getting the type of attention that they need.
They don't.
So
They don't.
exactly. And to me, just being an observer of the system in and of itself is set up to fail to me. So knowing that it's someone like yourself, a child advocate, who's looking for the betterment of the child, and there's another hand in that in the case, it seems like that's a great benefit because our DHS workers are completely overworked and they have so many cases.
And they have to get through those cases and check off all of the steps they have to take.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, not to downplay what they do, because they do a really good job. But as you said, they are overworked.
Right.
And they don't have the time to spend with the child.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Kim, I mean, I've got cases that I've got a few cases that I've had for over 10 years. Kids are in their forever homes, and we still maintain the relationship.
Right.
And it's hard once trained not to look for the same thing. I'm still, even though they're in these forever homes, I'm still making sure that everything is going on all right with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
DFACS doesn't have the time to do that.
Right. And it's so much harder for them to do it.
What is it called in Philadelphia? I'm sorry. What is it?
It's the Department of Human Services,
Okay.
which we just say
This,
DHS for short.
and we say DFACS. It's the same thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
a social worker who has, I don't know how many cases to do and how many checks that they have to do, whatever the performance indicators are for their boss. They have to do
Right.
work. And although it should be whatever's best for the child, it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, Sharita, I had posted just a few minutes ago when she was saying that some DHS workers don't seem to care, but it's really is that they're stretched so thin that they can't give the time that they need to every child. And that's where I talk about the system is set up to fail, because I know of a case where there was a mother who was it was concerned that she may do harm to herself, and the other parent was trying to get the father rather was trying to get the children
Because
and get custody,
mhm,
emergency custody, because he was concerned. And the judge said to him, well, it sounds like she's going to harm herself, not the kids.
let's take that case. If there were either a guardian ad litem or a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate, that person could offer to the judge another view of what's happening in that home,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and an objective view, because they wouldn't be speaking for either the father or the mother.
Right.
They
You
would
would be
only be
speaking for
speaking
the
for,
child.
right. And they could give facts and figures on what's happening. And a report would be written every month on what's going on and what's not going on.
Right,
So,
because I had learned that, when a report is made, and like say if some type of abuse is of concern,
mhm,
um, that the social worker or whomever it is that come out, the DHS person, when they come out, they don't necessarily share their reports with the courts. They just tell them what the outcome is. The whole outline of everything has to be a subpoena, where it sounds like you're giving the courts more information.
right. The reason, and as a CASA is appointed, part of the responsibility is to report back monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's an emergency between those months, then to report back on that. So,
Yeah.
and it, I mean, if you think of what your overall objective is to get that child into a safe forever home, then all of the obstacles that are standing in the way, you want to make sure you list those so that we know the part of the plan is to overcome those obstacles. Make
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sense? Mhm.
Yes, a lot
And
of
so you have
sense.
to document them, because if, I walk out and get hit by a truck, we still need to know what's going on with that kid.
Hello, hello. In my job, I'm a patient advocate, so we're kind
Same
of
thing.
similar. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
we have to stay in the middle, although it's very, difficult at times. But we are there strictly for the patient, and I say it's difficult because we are in between both sides. So it's the clinical side, the staff, and then it's the family and patient. So we're the mediators. I used to have a joke that we're the Olivia Popes of my network.
The
So
fixer.
yeah, exactly. We
Mhm.
were the one to try to satisfy the client. In this instance, our client is always the patient. Sometimes staff would come to us like, who's our advocate? And I'll be like, HR.
Yeah, that's not my, that's not,
That's not what I do. I don't
that's,
know what to tell you.
that's exactly right. And you have to keep focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because these poor kids, they've been bounced around and knocked around and sometimes abused. And no matter what these parents do to these kids, they love them. They still, that's their parents. That's all they
Yeah.
know. And
It doesn't matter what they
it,
do or
it
anything.
does. Mm-mm.
They will
But
forever love them. And it's more so they love the missing one more than and I shouldn't say they love, but they desire, of course, the missing one more than the one that they're in the house. And that's only because they see them every day.
because it's missing.
Mm-hmm.
The other one
Mm-hmm.
is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
So,
unknown sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of times with situations, I would imagine parents just don't know. Like in your area, it's automatic, but in Philadelphia, I don't think it's automatic because I actually asked someone that I know that works in family court, and I just asked them about a child advocate, and they was like, "Oh no, we don't have nothing like that. The only
Yes,
thing we
yes.
have is DHS."
1503 Cherry Street in
Mm,
Philadelphia.
okay.
Or you can Google and you'll find out, you can get the whole background of CASA. And if you do CASA Philadelphia, it'll tell you how it works. It'll tell you how to get involved. And any of us can do that. Any of
Mm-hmm.
us who, I mean, I jumped in full force, came right from work and took, after training, took on a few cases, several cases. But
Mm-hmm.
you can do one at a time. You,
Right.
you may not, there's a book and it talks about two people walking on the beach and they're these starfish and the lady is throwing them back into the ocean. And the person walking with them says, what are you trying to do? There are just so many of these starfish on the beach. You can't help all of them. And the lady picks up one and she throws one back. She said, I helped that one.
Mm,
And that's what you do. You help them one at a time. You do what you can for whom you can, the one at a time.
right. Right.
And I don't know whether some of your listeners might think about getting involved that way. But
Mm-hmm.
whether you decide right off to get involved or not, like I said, Google and find out about it and get more information, more than we will talk about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It is so rewarding. I am telling you, it is so rewarding.
I can only imagine it because you children are the most vulnerable persons on earth. They are born without any decisions. They don't have any decisions that they can make really for themselves. And it's on the onus of the parents. And it's just pot luck if you're born with the right parents or the wrong parents.
Right?
So they don't really have a voice to make those decisions. So it needs to be someone looking out for them. Um, is there any cases without getting divulging anything that you can kind of share to give how you were an impact in someone's life?
Well, I've got right now. Well, there are several, but there's one. In fact, one of the boys checked on me the other day,
Mm.
and they got adopted 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But every Christmas, every birthday, on my birthday, and times in between, and they've even been to my house for Thanksgiving. Their mother, there were twins mothers, and both of them had their children taken away from them because of
Mm.
alcohol abuse. And the children, every time, as I said, we'd meet every month to see how they were coming along. And they were going to give the children to their grandmother. Well, we did a trial. I went out and did a home evaluation, and the home was okay.
Mm.
But as we worked through it, we found that the grandmother had a whole lot going on too. So it wasn't an appropriate home for the child. They
Right.
were going to go back into foster care, and the grandmother's sister stepped up, and she said she'd adopt those children. I mean, she said they can come live with me. She didn't talk adoption right away. After a year, they got adopted. They
Mm.
are doing wonderfully. They're 17, no, they're 14 and 11 now. And I am telling you, and the mother has not, she doesn't call, she doesn't do anything, and they've stopped looking for her. But the aunt has stepped up, and with the help of the resources that the local CASA program has afforded her, they're doing wonderfully. They're
Wow.
thriving. They are thriving. Now, she's also gotten them in some of the resources, because you don't go through stuff like that with having some kind of emotional scars. So we get them connected um, with counselors. We get them into programs where they can talk to people, even other than me, professional emotional development people. These
Mm.
kids are thriving, and it is rewarding. I have another case where a couple, one by one, they do foster care. So far, they've got 10 kids that they've adopted. 10.
Wow.
You
Wow.
and it's really funny. I was in Costco and I saw the back of a lady, and I saw these children trailing. I mean, I'm always noticing children, and I'm thinking to myself, why does she have all of those children? I looked around and somebody said, "Hi, Miss Jean," and it was one of the women of that couple who had adopted those 10 children. I told her what I said. She says, "Well, it's part of what you did that had convinced me to take all of
Right.
the 10 children."
Right.
But I'm telling you, it's rewarding. If you see what happens when these kids come into um, into foster care, and then you see them get adopted, and then the transition of the uncertainty, is this going to happen again? Am I going to have to move again? And then they start to relax, and it starts to be their home. And I go to the soccer games, the baseball games, the athletic things that they're involved in. It is so rewarding. I would encourage your listeners to just look into it. It might be something from which you might find pleasure yourself.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Can you talk about some of the resources that CASA is able to provide to the children?
Well, many of the children are and I'm not even sure how this happens. You've heard a lot of ADHD kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that children are acting up in school. We see that they're scarred. So we've connected them with counselors, as I said. There may be situations where they're having trouble in school. We'll connect them with tutors. There may be a situation where some kids, it seems like they're not doing well because they can't see. Parents
Mm.
don't have enough, the foster parent hadn't noticed. Um, but so we make sure that they get to an optometrist, simple things like that. Things that you do for your children without even thinking
Mm-hmm.
are things may go neglected in either in a home where the parents are on drugs or neglecting or
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. So the CASA sees what it's going to take. If you look at it, if you go into a home and you assess the needs of that child, and it can be anywhere from emotional to physical to health wise. So you do the assessment, you make a list of the things that they're going to need, and then you work with, and it's an assistance to the social worker too. So you work
Right.
with that social worker to make sure that we get all of the resources that are needed for that child. It's kind of a problem solving process.
Okay.
If the objective is to make this a happy, healthy child,
Mm.
what's standing in the way of doing that?
Right.
We introduce resources that are going to help them overcome those obstacles. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that sounds amazing because I know a few DHS workers who I have shared different experiences or they've shared with me. And so I kind of get the overload. So to have such a child advocate to assist them with it, I know that has to be something amazing for them to pull on you for that type of assistance. And I just question, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this is because I question how many people know about it. Because until you mentioned it, I never heard of anything like this. And like I said, I called someone who works in family court and she wasn't aware of it. So I don't know
In family court? In family
Mhm.
court?
Yeah, she said, oh no, there's nothing like that. So,
That's interesting.
exactly. So I don't know the connection here in Philly, but it doesn't seem like it's widely publicized here, and it doesn't seem as though like when we hear the horror stories when events happen here in Philadelphia, it doesn't seem as though there was a child advocate involved.
And even if there's not a CASA like me,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, in many cases, there's a legal representation. You know, the judge assigns a legal representative for the child. The problem there is they've got so much
Yeah.
that they do. And oftentimes, if there's a CASA, that CASA has time to visit more frequently, to
Hmm.
engage the necessary resources, and then report back to the legal person. So
Right.
together, we can go to the judge and say, this is what's going on. This
Mm.
is what's happening with this child. Because oftentimes, even if a legal person is assigned, they've got such a workload too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Now let me ask you a question. Now for CASA, if even if the let's say the children were with their parents, um, it was the aftermath and everything settled. One of the parents have the children. Would CASA still be able to intervene to make sure that now that the children are just with one parent, that they can help with resources even in that kind of thing, or is it
So let me
simply
take you back.
foster care
Remember, the objective is to get them in a safe uh,
environment?
for, okay? And we don't just drop them into the first one. So what happens in the case that you're talking about? Maybe the child is placed temporarily with one of the parents. They're placed, but the custody of that child has not been transferred. So
Hmm.
until and unless the custody of that child gets transferred to that parent, then a CASA will be involved.
Oh, okay.
So a
But
CASA,
once custody is determined, then that would be the end of the case.
unless there's an event, and
Oh, okay.
unless there's an issue, an
Hmm.
episode. And so
Okay.
what happened, like I told you, what's happened with many of the CASAs, I know it happens with me, is you stay connected. You may not have an official, but you've developed a rapport and a relationship.
Right.
So in doing that, you notice what's going on, or the
Mm.
child, you know that child knows that no matter what, they can contact you.
Wow.
Whether they don't, no matter what your situation is, I'm here,
Right.
going to be here for you. So if something happens, the kid can pick up the phone and call. Now, there's sometimes there's sometimes children, even though things are happening bad in the home, they're reluctant to say something because they don't want to get disrupted again. They don't want to be shuffled off to someplace else. So you have to convince them that we're going to do what's best for you. And and so we'll work together with your
Hmm.
mom and your dad. And we do that until it's just not going to work. It's not.
Right.
So
Now, go ahead.
there are children who have stayed in state care until they've aged out.
Yeah.
And then there are services that will help them get started.
Oh, it
Even
is?
absolutely.
I didn't know that. What type of services are there after they age
It's
out?
it's the same. It's the same. It's connected to your, it will be your DHS there,
Hmm.
if that's what's, yeah. Because
Oh,
these are
wow.
kids who have been wards of the state until they're
That's
18.
certificate.
You can't just drop them, you know?
Right.
They're in, if they age out of foster care, those are the don't find their forever home.
Hmm.
They age out of foster care. But then there are here in where I live, there are departments of family services who will help these children um, get to be viable adults,
Hmm.
you know, get them in their own apartment. If they're trying to go to school, try to help them get to school. There's a something called a REACH program that will even offer scholarships. And depending on, and so you work with them to see what kind of financial aid that is available for them.
Okay.
If they want to go to college, if they want to go to trade school, you know, and it's just having somebody who is focused on that child's well-being, and not somebody who has 30 cases that they're working on and only have time to give half an hour a month to.
Mm, that's interesting. I really thought at the time that they aged out, that was it. Like there's no more services. And I mean, my knowledge of that is strictly TV. So I don't have any personal knowledge, but
Well,
when
that's
it
a good thing. That's a good thing.
yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Can I say that? But I just didn't know that they would carry on. I thought that was it, and you age out and you kind of on your own. So it's really good to know that they don't, even though sometimes foster care and a boarding situation is not the best for children. I've heard of horror stories, but yet and still, once they get out of that situation, I'm glad to see there's another step to it that would help them rebuild their life and take the next steps.
And it doesn't happen with every single one.
Hmm. I'm
Because
sure.
there are some children, once they get to be 18, they want out of, I'm grown,
Everything.
leave me
Hmm.
alone. But for those who want and for those who need, there, at least in here, there is, and I assume there are in other cities too.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
we're not so unique that that only happens here.
I'm
Uh,
sure it's not. It's just really looking into it. If you wanted to know, if you had a family member who was at where you couldn't take the child in, and you knew they were experiencing something like this, they could make the phone call for them. I put the link for CASA Philadelphia in the comment section, both on YouTube as well as Facebook, so that if someone knows a child that would need a child advocate, they would be able to easily get to that link.
mhm.
Did you freeze on me, Auntie? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't do anything. It was technology. But I sent you a notice. It was ironic that I had got popped up on Facebook where I'd sent out an all blast for this kid who was in need, who was getting ready to go into foster care. But most of them, they go and they have a bag. They just take this bag of stuff in a
Hmm.
trash bag from place to place. So some of the volunteers down here had gotten together and gotten backpacks for them. So they'd have their own luggage, so to speak, to take with
Hmm.
them. But this one kid had lost, he had nothing to put in the bag.
Mm.
So it popped up, it was in 2019, 18, I think. And I put out a blast on Facebook, just telling what was going on with the kid and if anybody had any children's clothes. And I put his sizes. You would not believe how many people responded. And
I can imagine.
it's just wonderful to see that. I mean, and we keep a clothes closet. We call it clothes closet. So the women, when they come in on Thursdays for these court meetings, these court hearings, they can also visit the closet of clothes that were we've donated for their kids' clothes and adults' clothes. Sometimes if the parents get to the point where they're going to look for a job and they don't have clothes to look for the job, they can go to the clothes closet.
Hmm.
found myself, coming from an HR background, I found myself actually out and about looking in IHOP and Target and places like that who are hiring to see if, and directing the mothers to those places so that they could secure jobs too. So it's really rewarding. You do these things and you just do it. After a while, it becomes a part of who you
Second
are.
nature, yeah.
Yeah, it's a part of who you are. But when you think about it, or like you're asking me to talk about it, it is the most rewarding thing that, aside from being a parent myself, it's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And it's
Yeah.
given me so much pleasure. It also, I mean, some of those court cases, I have to excuse myself and go into the restroom and bawl, but because you can think of the things that people can think to do to children, but it's more rewarding than not, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that I can relate to that because being a patient advocate, it definitely feels good to support a family through, especially the most difficult time of their lives, and being able to just help them make it through, help them build a better relationship with the clinical team, improve in communication, and tap into some resources, and making sure, like, they know what our social work department or care management department can do for them, and to make sure they make that connection. So it can be very rewarding. And I have been on the other side as well, where a case can get so emotional that you have to pull yourself out so that you can take that moment yourself just to breathe.
You know what else? I told you the other day, what else I'm doing is I signed up to be a bailiff in the Superior Court.
Yeah.
And the other day, one of the cases that I had as a CASA came through. They'd been with this foster care for 7 years, this foster home for 7 years, and now they were being adopted. Well, they had
Oh,
people
wow.
from church come in. The courtroom was packed. There
Mm.
was not a dry eye in the room. And the judge came over to me after because I saw him tearing up too. And so the judge came over to me afterwards and he said, Miss Fendall, he said, this is a good thing, isn't it? Because we had just sent some people to jail earlier. But he said, this is a good thing, isn't it? I said, yes. He said, I said, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. He said, yeah, I had to catch myself. He said, I had to catch myself because
If you could have seen your face just now, like,
please,
don't make me.
please excuse me. Uh, he said it's not a good look for a judge to be crying.
Oh, yeah. How about that? You don't get to see that too often. Yeah, that must have been something. But yeah, my auntie she's a bailiff now. I don't think I told everybody that you are in Georgia. So a lot of things you're doing, like she does everything. Like she
Excuse
is
me for just a second.
sure.
Keep talking.
Oh Lord, and help. Can we go into prayer for the dogs real quick? Because she's about to hang them dogs. I know, Sharita. Did you see her face? She throwing them in the closet. It's like, no, she loves her dogs. Her and her dogs. And one of them, do you got both dogs today?
Yes.
Yeah, so one is her daughter's dog and one is her dog. They swap homes because
I got my
they,
daughters today.
oh, okay. The dogs like each other so much that now they can't separate them.
Yeah, that's what COVID has done. So somebody was walking by the house and they think they own the street. So I apologize for that noise.
That's okay. It's okay. Everybody got a life.
I heard they have foster programs for dogs.
Actually, they do. Actually, I had a dog. After our house fire, I had to find somewhere for our dog to be, and there was a shepherd foster care system. So
Okay.
yeah, I was able because we were no longer able to keep her, and I didn't want her to go to the SPCA. So
Yeah.
I found this Shepherd foster care system, which leads to adoption. So I met the foster care parent to exchange, and she would state like she knew my heart. So she would keep in contact with me about how she was doing. She would send me pictures, the whole nine. And then this foster care, they when she finally got adopted, they showed me a picture of her new family.
Oh, see, that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's great.
Yep, it was the hardest thing I could do, but she ended up being in the right place. So, and the
Well,
situation was better for her.
maybe that's the most loving thing you can do sometimes is to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah, because it was just the two of them. The husband stayed was worked from home. This was before COVID. Worked from home, and the wife went out. So there was always he always, and that's what he loved the most. Because like when my brother was living with me, he was always the one in the house. So that's where Takita had thrived when someone was always home.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening
So
with these dogs. It's
yeah,
somebody that after COVID, they think they need to be by themselves I mean, with someone all the time.
somebody all the time.
Right. So now that I'm working, I have to do things.
Wait, you do things regardless if you working or not. I came down there to get for a reprieve. I was home alone all the time. And then she'd be like, I'm so tired. Well, if you sit down,
I thought you wanted solitude.
I mean, it was nice. I mean, trust me when I tell you, I didn't have no problems with it. But when I tell you, she would be up and out the house early in the day. I'm like, okay, bye.
So, Kim, do you think any of your listeners would be interested in following up on CASA work? How can you follow up with them to make sure that?
Well, they definitely can post. I'm always looking at the comments so that if anyone is ever interested, I also, like I told you, I posted in there for Philadelphia, and I'll post the main site as well in
Mhm.
there and pin it to the top of the comments so that people can easily find it. And
Mhm.
then, this will be on my YouTube page forever. So even though sometimes our viewership of going live is not extreme, but I do get very good replay
Follow up. Mhm.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yes, very good.
yes, I've done it myself. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, because this is a in between time of people coming home from work and getting settled. So I don't even worry about too many people viewing at the time, as long as my niece is here. Now she doesn't have any excuse never to be here. Like one time she tried to say she had to get her hair done, and I was like, what? But
Get her
I
prep.
can always count on her being here.
That is great. That
And
is
she's
great.
always engaging. That's the other thing.
Uh-huh.
Engagement is nice. That's when I put them, I'll post something on there. If somebody make a comment, I'll let it be shown. So yeah, but yeah, so you definitely can inbox me. What you can send me a DM. Everybody know I'm Let's Just Talk with Kim on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Even though I don't got my TikTok game, Facebook. I'm everywhere. Let's Just Talk with Kim. So, and then you're on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to
I started doing TikTok too.
oh Lord, did you put something up?
No, no, just my comments of crazy stuff that are there. You know, I can't go without having a comment.
If you would have said you put something up, let me tell you how. I would have been like, let me share my screen. Let's see what she put up.
Oh no,
Because
don't
my
worry.
auntie is funny. I'm telling you, you would never believe how old this woman is. And she still has so much fire and energy. She's doing everything all the time. We even had a little dating conversation once.
Well, well, as I'm telling him, knocking on 80's door. But at least I'm not knocking on heaven's door.
I know, right? Yeah, you're not there yet. You're not. See, what I be saying, I be telling people I'm a woman of a certain age.
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm nowhere near those that really say it, because I got it from one of the pastors that I love, Pastor Lambert. He always say, well, I'm a man of a certain age. So I stole it from him. And he was like, daughter, you don't need to be saying that. What are you talking about? You ain't nothing but a baby.
You haven't earned it.
Well, I'm over 50. That earns it. I'm on the downswing. You know what I'm saying? I climbed the mountain. I did what I needed to do.
Okay. All righty.
So now I just say I'm a woman of a certain age.
Okay. I'm a woman of a certain age too.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
You are.
Oh, Lord. I know. I love it. I always say it. I always say I'm a woman of a certain age because let me tell you, it's rough out in these streets. Listen, it ain't for the young. It's not for the old at heart. It's for the young at heart. So at least I stay young, no matter what. And you do too. I mean, if you didn't have if you didn't go all the way silver, no one would ever guess how old you are. Like your face is just as smooth.
Yes, my hair has been turning white since I was in my mid-20s.
Wow, really?
Yes, and it's great.
Wow.
Great for its right to be. And so it won out. So I thought I better stop dying before my face caught up with it. So as my face caught up with it, I'm right on time.
Right. But your face ain't catch up yet.
Oh,
Your face,
yes,
no. You ain't got, well, I don't see a wrinkle in sight. What are you talking about? Your skin is impeccable.
We need to change those glasses, girl.
Maybe one day, you'll accept your own beauty.
Yeah.
You'll accept it. So, Auntie, I truly appreciate you coming on with me. I love you so much. And my auntie is all the way from Georgia, tuning in with us, sharing what it means to be a child advocate and all the resources that CASA can provide. So in your area, wherever you are in the US, tap in, see if you know a family that is in need of additional support for the children. Go find out for yourself. See your local CASA and tell them, what it is that you stand in need of or the family needs, and maybe you can be helpful.
Let me back up. Let me make sure that maybe I didn't make it clear.
Wait, what?
CASAs are assigned to children whose family don't have custody of them. So CASA,
right, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't say it right.
Okay, so it's just not somebody who's in need of these services.
Right.
Those people might have to go a different route to get those services. For children who are in foster care, they are assigned a special advocate to speak on their behalf.
Or not in a safe living situation, right?
If somebody's not in a safe living situation, then you need to get in touch with family services and have them.
Okay.
In that situation, the child gets taken out of that unhealthy situation or that abusive or neglectful situation.
Okay.
And in many cases, the parents will end up losing custody until we find a safe or until the parent has cleaned up their act enough to be able to take care of these children.
Okay.
So, but the advocates are assigned to children who are in foster care, children whose parents have lost custody of them, children who are in custody of the state.
Okay. So if you know some children that's in that scenario, or even maybe have family members who lost their children, and you know how rough the situation was, and you want to see if they can receive services, like if they're no longer with their parents and maybe in the foster care system.
If they're in the foster care system, it'll either be family services who will help them get the services they need, or
Mm-hmm.
if the judge has assigned a court-appointed special advocate to them, then that advocate will work on their behalf.
Okay. Well, I would still say reach out because so CASA is in, excuse me, is in Philadelphia, but when I asked, inquired, it wasn't heard
I'm
of.
amazed that the people in family services don't know what CASA is.
Right. I did inquire and to
I
see
may have
about
to
a
follow
child
up on
advocate.
that myself. I would
Excuse
be
me, excuse
interested
me.
in knowing how active the CASA program is in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because
If so, why not?
it wasn't offered or nothing. It even the DHS workers, they
Didn't
didn't know
know.
about it. Mm-hmm. Didn't know about it.
Wow. But you saw the link. You saw the
Yeah, I shared the link.
so
I
you
shared it.
right. I'm wondering.
Hey, Hakeem.
I'm just wondering why. Monkey fingers. Okay.
That's Hakeem.
Okay. I,
Patty's Hakeem.
I know who it is. Yes, it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, so they don't, I mean, you gotta inquire because I hit a brick wall. Remember, because I text you and then you seen it and I shared that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't offered to us.
Yes, I couldn't imagine a city or county as large as Philadelphia not having one. Uh,
Or not, it's not hard to imagine for a Philadelphian that it wasn't a connection.
yeah, a Philadelphian, but not a
Yeah, for
services
me,
worker, a
right.
family
So
services
for
worker.
me doing well, I'm just saying, because I know how Philadelphia kind of runs, um, I wasn't surprised that no one knew about it,
Wow. Even in family services.
even in family services.
Wow. Wow.
So, oh
Well,
my
he said
gosh,
he
you
knew
did
it. He said he
you.
knew it.
No, I was. I think he didn't. I think he really was saying that you look familiar, and then he talked about something he knew it. Hey, aunties. But yeah, so I mean that's why I say for people to inquire about it. I
Yeah.
know it's court appointed, but perhaps it's not being said. And you may know a child that has recently entered the system in foster care, or may not be wherever that transition is, but they're not in a safe environment.
And we usually get appointed through the juvenile judges,
Oh,
juvenile
okay.
the juvenile court judges.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's usually
So
working.
what's the difference between family court and a juvenile?
No, juvenile court is family court,
Oh, okay. Okay.
different
Okay.
from adult court.
Right, right, right. Okay. All right. That's why I wasn't sure when I asked that question.
Mm.
So I can honestly say I inquired and they weren't aware of it. Yeah. And we didn't get it. We
Wow,
couldn't get it. So
that is interesting.
very,
Well,
very
I really
interesting.
appreciate your helping us get it out, get the
The
information,
word out.
the
Yeah,
word.
because I think it's a need to know because, like I said, they're the most vulnerable and they need to be supported, and children need to be able to get all the resources they possibly can. And I'm not even against the DHS because, when people say DHS, they think, oh, they're going to take my children. But on the other side of things, they can provide you with services, they can provide you with food, they can provide you with beds if you needed new beds for your children, they can help with clothing, they can help with so many
Right.
different programs for your child that is not as bad as you think.
And maybe in some cases, you need to be able to focus on a parent who's having issues. They need to focus on themselves.
Hmm.
to get themselves right so that they can take care of their children.
Exactly. Because we need help as parents. I'm not saying I was one of those type of parents, but being a single mom and raising my son, yeah, it took more than me. I
But
didn't need these
understand
type
now,
of.
you would not have needed these
Right,
types.
that's what I was saying. I wouldn't have needed this type of services, but um I needed help. So I can't even imagine a person who is struggling, whatever the situation is, if it be drug abuse, alcohol, whatever, some type of substance abuse, or some type of mental instability that they can't care for their children the way they need to,
Right.
that we need to have resources for them and not let them just struggle. And I'm glad to know, like, even if they needed to step away, it's not always that you're going to lose your children. You just, like you said,
And you
you
don't
need
lose them
time.
forever.
Right.
If you're committed to working your program to get yourself back on track, um, we want the children to be with their parents, but we want them
Mm-hmm.
to be safe, and we don't
Exactly.
want them to be abused or neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you're on that page, then there are resources that will work with and for you to get you back on track so that you can regain custody of your children.
Right. And don't be scared. Don't be scared. Invite them in. Be willing, because that's what really shows that you are just going through a tough time, is when you're willing. When you start to fight the system that's trying to help your children, that kind of, to me, gets you labeled as an unfit parent, or
Hmm.
wanting your children to kind of not thrive.
Think about it though, by the time you get to the point where your child's taken away from you, you've gone really down.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I get
yeah,
it. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I definitely get
the
it.
courts don't indiscriminately take children away.
Mhm, mhm.
There has to be abuse or neglect.
Absolutely,
And in that case, we have to do what's best for the child. We can't put them in
absolutely,
a dangerous situation.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm 100% for that.
Mhm.
And for me, I'm a mandated reporter just by working in a hospital.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all of
So
us are mandated reporters.
yeah, so you gotta speak up, and family members gotta speak up. Family members can't turn a blind eye. You gotta speak up.
My grandson tells me, Mimi, you can't just randomly get into people's faces and ask them about their children. Well, you do. You do. If
Mm,
you see something, you need to say something
yes,
because you
absolutely.
may read about that child in the paper the next day when you get
Right.
the opportunity to say
And that's
something.
the last thing you would want, that type of guilt trip on your
Yeah,
shoulders.
yeah.
So yeah, speak up. Get if you see a family member struggling or a child struggling, don't keep it to yourself. Be
No.
that
You
mandated
you can
reporter.
be, yeah, you can be that advocate for the child, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're appointed or not.
Not hello.
Yes, yes, yes.
Jeez. Well, Auntie, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. So not longer at all on here, at least not live. But I thank you for coming out. My mouth is so dry, Lord Jesus. I haven't even been talking long. Jeez, you've
Well,
been doing all the talking.
thank you so much for highlighting this very important program.
You're very welcome. And as always, this is Let's Just Talk with Kim. And I thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, we'll be back every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out anytime, anywhere. And hey, go back through my catalog. We've had some great shows. You think this is good, honey? You need to see some of our others. Hakeem had that one little thing. That's true. That is true. Gotcha. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next week. Bye.